We are back, and I am joined by Jamie. She's the go-to gal if what you want to know about taxes, and it's in the news. Everybody's asking. I'm sure your office is very busy and flooded with phone calls. Tell us about 375. What does that mean? Can you put it in layman's terms, the Senate bill?
I will try. Senate Bill 375 is authored by Senator Jim Buck.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what it's doing is changing the filing requirements on personal property taxes. They are a self-filed tax return at the local level. And basically what they're trying to do is lower the depreciation rate from 30% to 20%, meaning personal property or business owners file on their tangible personal property or their equipment, things that operate or make their business run. Right now, they are capped at 30%. They have to pay at least 30% of the value of that equipment.
Now, that equipment can be a hauler, a trailer.
Absolutely.
The outbuilding.
A press.
Sure.
Yes. Wiring. They have to pay, it cannot depreciate lower than 30% of the overall value.
Okay.
They're wanting to lower that to 20%.
Okay.
Basically, that does have huge overall consequences to the other taxpayers. But first and foremost, I guess it's important to note the first year when businesses file on their business equipment, when it's brand new equipment, they pay what's called a true tax value percentage. So it's depreciated right away. They're paying only a 40% good on the overall cost of that equipment.
Which is just like if you bought a brand new car, the minute you
roll
roll
it off, it's depreciated down.
Right. Okay.
So they are never paying truly on 100% of that, especially if it's abated, which a lot of our larger manufacturing businesses or companies, they are abated anyways. But they're only paying 40% of the true tax value the first year. The second year, I believe it's 56%. And that's for there's different pools based off the lifespan of it. But that's where the majority of all of the personal property equipment, especially in Howard County, is filed.
Okay.
So if they're in that pool, they're only paying at the top percentage the second year, 56%. So what they've tried to do in the past is cap the depreciation loss, knowing that, it's not heavily taxed in the first year at a 100% of value.
Sure.
So this would be a huge change. It's been 30% since I've been doing all the returns. So it would be a huge impact.
Now, what is that going to do to just say a regular taxpayer like myself who doesn't own a business?
What that means is by just changing the filing requirement on the floor from 30% to 20%, that will cause personal property to not pay $8 million here locally. So it's an $8 million takeaway or change in tax revenue here locally. Well, businesses in Howard County, personal property, they equate to 30% of our overall collection in revenue.
Okay.
We collect over $25 million in personal property revenue, which is 30% of our total revenue.
Sure.
So when you take $8 million out of that mix, what does that mean? Well, a portion of it's going to shift to other residential homeowners. In fact, $1.8 million will shift of the $8 million. Why not the entire $8 million? Well, because there's circuit breaker credits now. Tax caps, they're also referred to, or circuit breakers.
On your home, correct?
On our homes, they're 1%. Residential rentals and agricultural land, it's 2%, and other businesses is 3%, or commercial property is 3%. So basically, what that means is you have $8 million that we're going to lose in revenue. Of that, 1.8 million will shift to other residential type dwellings and other property, agricultural land, other businesses will also shift on, especially on the real property side of it.
Now, are there already people that are at their cap for their homes?
Yes. The homesteads here in Howard County, they're not being met right now because we offer other tax incentives and credits that lower them. So the 1%ers, as we call them, or the homestead properties, they're under their cap limit. This would force them almost right at that cap limit or over the cap limit. So we would collect an additional 1.8 million from them and then also lose an additional 5 million in circuit breaker cap. When I say we, I mean local governments of local governments. So it's almost, when you're shifting 1.8 million on other property, your local government's going to lose an additional 5 million in circuit breaker caps and you're losing $8 million in revenue from personal property collection, it's going to really, handcuff local governments and the services that they're trying to provide.
Now, are you finding that a lot of people are obviously getting a little bit scared because they don't know what the percentage is that they're going to be paying even more, or the dollars that they're going to have?
Yeah, a lot of people are saying, well, how does this impact me individually? And it depends on what type of property they own. It also depends on the county throughout the state. Howard County is very heavily reliant on personal property tax collection. Some other communities that are more rural in nature are not, or that are more underdeveloped.
Sure.
So, why is this bill being introduced? I believe it's to try to help rural communities develop some. I think it's also to try to make Indiana to be a front runner. I know some other surrounding community or surrounding states are looking at their personal property tax collections.
Sure.
But every state does things, somewhat different, whether it's inheritance tax, personal property tax, corporate tax rates. So it's just finding that balance that you're not just giving businesses a break and putting it on the backs of other taxpayers, but also not charging businesses enough that they still want to invest in your community and in your state.
Now, I know you're probably feeling like the oxygen is taken out of the room when you hear things like that going on, but do you see it actually being a benefit to our community, or do you feel like it's a hindrance? Can I put you on the spot and ask you that? Or?
In Howard County, with knowing in Howard County that 90% of that 30% I was talking about are just are larger manufacturers.
Sure.
Okay. Of them, they all receive abatements when they invest new equipment. They receive abatements. So with knowing that, I've never, in working with them in the past, through their bankruptcies or whatever, paying the taxes that, we've worked through that through the bankruptcy, and they know it's a part of the taxes they pay for the services that they provide because they have such a huge partner community. So for Howard County, I believe it would be detrimental, just because of the shift to other taxpayers, because no option has been given at this point of how to make up that revenue. And to me, it's not an option to increase $1.8 million in property taxes. Then also the state's option right now too would be just to collect more income taxes, and those are charged on individuals. So it would just be a huge shift away from businesses to individuals, and I don't think it's a time that people can afford it.
Agreed.
And I think the local units of government, with the services that they provide, whether it be bus transportation for schools, capital projects for their schools, heating for their school, police and fire, those types of services are really ones that people see here locally, use and need and desire here locally.
To bring people here.
To bring people here. And I think once you're talking about units losing an additional $5 million in cap loss because it would force those to the caps, it would be hard to recover from that here locally.
Now, do you think we're in a better position because of the way our budget is right now? Do you think we're in a better position to handle this? Or, is that just, and then the foundation is taken away from us?
The concern is, in 2012, local units combined here in Howard County lost over $4 million in circuit breaker. Next year, it's projected at $8 million. Due to several outlying factors, whether it be assessed values declined, the annexation where more taxes are going to be charged on for the city rate. So we're trying to recover from those, and I think a lot of the units here in Howard County have been able to sustain a lot, whether it be the bankruptcies of some of our major taxpayers. But also, we're also absorbing the loss of, they're phasing out inheritance tax.
Right.
And so as they're phasing these out, there's no revenue supplement in place to account for that loss. And also the state has been placing a lot of additional mandates on the local units. So it's a catch 22. They're giving more services here locally. that we are mandated to provide, and saying, okay, now we're going to provide you with less revenue to do it.
Sure.
So it's really a catch-22.
Okay, and for the people, just a quick final question for now. For the people out there who are genuinely panicked, who are starting to recover but slowly, what do you say to them? What do you say to those people that are like, I can't handle anymore? You know, what do you say to those people?
Right now, our Martha Lake was our previous treasurer, and she implemented a lot of good programs as far as trying to work with people on tax collection, as far as property taxes. I first tell people to make sure you're involved. Stay involved. Talk to your local representatives. Talk to your senators and your state reps. They're down there to represent us. We're talking to them. You as individuals need to talk to them.
And to understand a lot of what this means.
Yes. But as I mentioned with Martha, she's put into place where you can pay installments. You know, so if you are concerned about what your future tax responsibility is, go into the treasurer's office and start making small payments so that you can plan for it, so that it doesn't come due in too large lump sums for property taxes. You can, you know, pay a portion of that, even if we don't know what the taxes are going to be yet for 2013. We will accept partial payments if you want to start planning early.
And to kind of get a jump on that.
Yes.
And do you see huge percentages for the most? Or, I mean, I know I'm asking you to look into the future, but, you know, that's on everyone's mind. Exactly what am I going to do? That kind of a question. Do you see a large jump?
We get this time of year, because businesses are starting to gear up to think about filing their personal property returns. And so we get a lot of questions, you know, what do we do? What can we do? But right now we're faced as local officials with the same thing. There's quite a few bills introduced down at the State House that would have ramifications to Howard County taxpayers. And I just ask and urge those residents to speak to their representatives, to understand those bills. One thing I really like that Legislative Services has began to do, and I noticed it with the Senate Bill 375, they have started to attach their fiscal analysis to the bill, so that when, you know, your representatives are voting on that bill, it'll be right there in the bill, the impact, not only to the state, but to the individual communities that they represent. And I just urge people to talk to their local officials, and I urge local officials to also go to the State House and have a voice, because sometimes our voice is everybody's voice here in Howard County. So if you can't talk to your state senator or representative, come in and speak to one of your local officials so that they know what the majority of the people they represent feel.
And to kind of get involved that way and to understand exactly what you're paying, what is coming, and understand the bill itself so that you have a better knowledge.
Absolutely. I think it's very good to take a look at your bill, see how much of your bill is going to the different units of government, find out of that money that's being spent to the local units, what are they using it to, you know, what are they spending it on? You know, every year we go through a budget process, and there's not a whole lot of individuals in that process, and they are open to the public. And I urge people to come in. That's one of the things I enjoy most as a local official, is when somebody comes in and they say, you know, I'm looking at buying a house, but I want to see what the tax consequence would be with a deduction or without a deduction. I enjoy doing that for people because they're being proactive, and they want to know where their revenue or what their money that they work hard for, where it's going. And I just urge people to do that, because I know I like to know where my taxes are going, and I think we should all remember, you know, we're spending everybody else's money, you know.
Absolutely.
So,
and that's probably what gets people all fired up when it comes to their tax dollars and their hard-earned money, is because they feel like they have no control. They feel like it's being taken away and things aren't being given back. And that's truly when people like Jamie and our officials want you to get involved and understand what's going on, because the most important thing you can do is understand what it means and how it affects you. Because fear is probably one of the big things that you have to deal with.
Absolutely.
Of the unknown.
Absolutely. We send out assessment notices the year before they're taxed and collected on. And, you know, people, well, what does this mean? Well, we don't know until, you know, we get tax rates and the budgets are set. So absolutely, it's the fear of the unknown. And as a local official, we also have that, because we only implement the laws that is handed to
down.
us.
Right.
You know, so we have a fear of that too, because we are faced with implementing these laws and rules and regulations, and also we're faced with seeing the people and trying to explain these
Sure.
laws as they come through. So, that's one reason I like to speak to our representatives, so that they know this is how it will impact Howard County and our residents, because I want Howard County to have a voice at the State House. And
Right.
I think here locally, people would be very surprised to know about the voice that they have down at the State House, whether it be county officials,
Right.
school officials have done a good job, the city officials, the mayor. We're all locally very involved at the State House and in that process, and I think it helps.
And on the human level, I think that people need to understand that you guys live, work, and play here
Absolutely.
as well. And that's one of the big things, is that they're out there. Ask them a question. They will be glad to help you. And honestly, Jamie, I'll have her back in the hot seat for sure, asking if you've got questions. Email me, tweet me, let me know. We'll get her back in here, and she'll answer your questions.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming in
You're
today.
welcome.
And thanks for tuning in today. We've got a whole bunch of amazing guests that are going to be next week. And honestly, file in your questions, and I will get them to Jamie, and she'll be right back here in the hot seat. So thanks for tuning in today. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And don't forget, ballroom dancing tonight. Me and Jessica, we're lightening up in here because taxes are pretty heavy.
I'd like to see that.
But Jessica and I tonight at the Senior Center right there in Foster Park, I am obsessed with it. Be there, 7 o'clock. It's a free lesson, so we'll catch you next week.